Synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see. Carl Jung. Have you ever wondered, what if those strange coincidences you call synchronicities aren't signs from the universe at all, but messages from a hidden part of you? Imagine that every time life lines up in mysterious ways, meeting the right person, hearing the right words, seeing the right sign, it isn't fate whispering. It's your own unconscious mind wearing a disguise, trying to get your attention. Carl Jung believed synchronicity was never random, and if he was right, then every synchronicity is not just a cosmic wink. It's your soul speaking to you, urging you to wake up. If this is true, then the coincidences in your life are not accidents at all. They are signals, sometimes gentle, sometimes impossible to ignore, pushing you toward the hidden parts of yourself. And Carl Jung once warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that. What we often dismiss as fate or destiny may simply be the unconscious pulling the strings, and synchronicity is the language it uses, the mirror it holds up to show us what we have not yet seen. As Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that for a moment. How often have you brushed off a coincidence, telling yourself it was destiny or luck or some invisible hand of the universe? Yet what if it was something more intimate, something closer than your own breath? Jung called it synchronicity, the meaningful connection between inner events of the psyche and outer events of the world. But here is the twist that most people overlook. What if synchronicity is not the world speaking to you, but you speaking to yourself through the world? It sounds strange, doesn't it? But reflect on your own life. Perhaps you were wrestling with a choice, lost in doubt, and suddenly you overheard a conversation, read a line in a book, or stumbled upon an image that spoke directly to your struggle. You felt it in your bones. This is a sign. But ask yourself, who placed that book in your hands? Who drew your eyes to that image? Who tuned your ears to hear those words out of a sea of noise? Could it be that your own unconscious, vast and timeless, orchestrated the stage for your conscious mind to awaken? Jung believed the psyche was not limited to the walls of the skull. It is woven into the fabric of reality itself. The boundary between inside and outside is thinner than we imagine. So when the unconscious wishes to speak, it doesn't always whisper in dreams. It moves the world around you like a mirror. And here is the unsettling part. If synchronicity is you in disguise, then every coincidence is also a clue. A trail of breadcrumbs laid out by the deepest part of your being, urging you to remember who you are. When you look into a mirror, you expect to see your reflection, but synchronicity is like a mirror made of events, symbols, and chance encounters. Instead of showing you your face, it shows you your soul. Think of a time when life placed you in front of something that felt uncannily personal. Perhaps a stranger spoke words that echoed your private fears, or a film scene mirrored the exact turmoil in your heart. You might have called it coincidence, but deep down, you sensed it was more. Jung taught that the unconscious is vast, holding not just your forgotten memories, but also archetypes, primordial patterns of human experience. These archetypes are alive. They press upon your life, seeking expression. And when you resist them, they don't vanish. They find another way to reach you. Synchronicity is that reaching. It is the unconscious arranging the outer world as a stage play, so that the inner drama can no longer be ignored. The quarrel you keep avoiding suddenly echoes in a song lyric. The dream you dismissed reappears in the words of a friend. The very thing you push away insists on returning until you finally turn and face it. This is why Jung called synchronicity a psychic mirror. The world outside becomes the screen upon which your inner conflicts are projected, not to confuse you, but to awaken you. And here is the question. When the world mirrors your soul back to you, do you recognize the reflection, or do you dismiss it as mere chance? Because if synchronicity is truly you in disguise, then ignoring it is like covering the mirror, refusing to see your own face. Synchronicity often shows itself at the edges of life, in those fragile, uncertain moments where something is about to change. Take love, for instance. How many stories begin with a chance encounter? You miss a bus, and in that delay you meet the one who alters the course of your life. Was it fate? Or was it your own soul conspiring to bring you face to face with what you secretly longed for? Or consider loss. Perhaps you were grieving, feeling unbearably alone. And then, out of nowhere, a line from a stranger, or even the sudden flight of a bird, touched you so deeply it felt as if the universe itself was consoling you. But maybe it was not the universe. It was the unacknowledged part of you, the archetype of the healer, speaking back to your suffering through the language of the world. And then there are the crossroads of destiny, the moments where a single decision could change everything. You ask yourself, should I leave this job? Should I move to another city? Should I end this relationship? And suddenly signs cluster around you. The same phrase repeats from multiple lips. A symbol recurs in dreams and waking life. The world seems to be whispering, pay attention. Jung noticed that synchronicities often occur when the psyche is under pressure, when the conscious mind is stuck and the unconscious insists on breaking through. In those moments, reality itself bends, arranging patterns so that your hidden truth becomes impossible to ignore. And here lies the unsettling beauty. Synchronicity does not promise comfort. It does not always tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes it confronts you with what you have tried hardest to deny. The shadow you fled may appear as an external event, forcing you to see what has been buried. So ask yourself, what recent coincidence has been pressing on your attention? What message might your unconscious be staging in the theater of your life right now? Not every coincidence is synchronicity. Sometimes life is just random. A clock strikes the same number you were thinking of, and it means nothing more than chance. So how do we tell the difference? Jung gave us a simple guide. Synchronicity carries meaning. It is not the event itself that matters, but the resonance it awakens in you. The outer moment and your inner state align so precisely that it feels as if the world has entered into dialogue with your soul. For example, if you dream of a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and the very next day they call you, that's unusual. But if that call arrives just as you are wrestling with forgiveness or longing for reconnection, then the event is drenched in meaning. The coincidence becomes synchronicity, or imagine you're doubting your creative path. You feel lost, uncertain whether to continue, and then, unexpectedly, a stranger compliments your work, or you stumble across a story of an artist who overcame the same doubts. And you feel a surge of recognition, as if the world is reflecting your exact inner conflict. That is the mark of synchronicity. Synchronicity feels alive. It pierces through the noise of ordinary life and makes you stop. You sense a kind of numinous charge, a sacred electricity that tells you, pay attention. But here is the paradox. The more rigidly you demand synchronicity, the less likely you are to notice it. It cannot be forced, because it arises when the unconscious seeks expression. Your task is not to control it, but to stay open. To live with a kind of symbolic awareness, ready to receive. So perhaps the real question is not, was that a sign? But what within me is calling to be seen through this event? Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But how do we step onto that path? How do we move from being a fragmented self, half in the light, half in denial of our shadow, towards psychological wholeness? This is where synchronicity becomes more than mystery. It becomes a guide. Individuation, Jung's word for the process of becoming whole, is not achieved by logic alone. It requires encounters with the unconscious, dreams, symbols, and yes, synchronicities that point us toward the pieces of ourselves we've forgotten. Imagine a woman who has always suppressed her creativity out of fear of failure. She chooses the safe path, avoids risk, and buries her passion. One day, she begins to notice strange alignments, conversations about painting, invitations to art shows, a book falling open on the subject of courage. These events converge, whispering to her what her conscious mind refuses to admit, that her true path lies in embracing the very thing she abandoned. This is synchronicity as an inner compass. The unconscious arranges patterns in the outer world to draw her attention back to her authentic self. And once she listens, once she dares to follow the trail, the transformation begins. She discovers that purpose is not found externally, but uncovered internally. It emerges when the fragments of light and shadow are welcomed into unity. Here lies the disturbing beauty Jung observed. When patients integrated these hidden aspects, the change was permanent. They did not cycle back into people-pleasing. They did not apologize for their new boundaries. They no longer second-guessed their perceptions. They had become psychologically complete. So synchronicity is not just a curiosity. It is the language of the soul, leading us, if we are attentive, toward individuation, toward becoming who we truly are. So how do we bring this down from philosophy into daily life? How do we make synchronicity not just something we marvel at, but something we work with, like a compass guiding our inner journey? The first practice is self-inquiry. Begin by asking yourself, what do I fear most about myself? What have I been told is unacceptable in me? What passions have I abandoned because they seemed unworthy or impractical? Write these questions in a journal. Sit with them. Let the answers emerge slowly. Next, practice journaling synchronicities. Whenever something strange happens, an uncanny coincidence, a meaningful alignment, record it. Don't judge it. Don't explain it away. Simply notice. Over time, you'll begin to see patterns, threads weaving through your life, pointing to the same neglected truths. Another powerful tool is symbolic awareness. Treat your life as if it were a dream. When a powerful image, phrase, or event catches your attention, ask, what does this symbolize? What part of me is trying to speak here? The unconscious often chooses metaphor, and synchronicity is no different. It speaks in symbols, not literal instructions. And finally, practice listening with humility. Synchronicity is not a fortune teller. It will not hand you the future wrapped in certainty. Instead, it invites you into dialogue with yourself. It asks you to trust your own inner authority, to risk believing that your soul is wiser than your surface mind. When you live this way, the world transforms. Every encounter, every dream, every coincidence becomes alive with possibility. You begin to sense that nothing is wasted, nothing random. Even the detours are messages, even the delays are lessons. Carl Jung believed the unconscious always seeks wholeness. Synchronicity is one of the ways it knocks on the door of your waking life. The only question is, will you open the door? And so perhaps now you begin to see synchronicity is not just a cosmic trick of chance. It is the unconscious dressed in disguise, reaching out through the world around you, urging you to listen. It is your soul's way of saying, wake up, there is more of you waiting to be born. But remember, this is not just Jung's story, it is your story. Every one of you has felt it, that strange phone call, that repeating symbol, that impossible encounter that left you wondering. These are not accidents, they are invitations. And I want to ask you directly, what synchronicity has spoken to you recently? Was it a dream echoed in reality? A phrase you couldn't escape? A moment that felt like the universe itself leaned closer to whisper in your ear? Share it in the comments below. Your story may be the mirror someone else needs to see their own. And if this journey stirred something within you, then stay with us here at Inner Balance Psychology. Subscribe so you don't miss the next step into the depths of Jungian wisdom, into shadow, dreams, archetypes, and the living mystery of the soul. because the path of inner balance is not walked alone. We walk it together, one synchronicity, one revelation, one moment of awakening at a time. Until then, trust the signs, trust your soul, and remember, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are.